Hello everyone, this is Chantal from Gluten-Free Cooking123.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make Laban Emmo. Laban Emmo is basically a yogurt stew that's filled with meat and spices and onions, and it's served with Mediterranean rice. So right here I have a pound of beef that I have already pre-cubed, and you could use any beef cut that you like. My preferred beef for stew is chuck roast. I find that it has the best texture for a stew, and it's soft and it's tender. And right here I have some onions, and these are from my Misfit Market box and some other ones just from the store-bought. Look at the difference. This is the Misfit Market one, and this is the store-bought one. I have, I would say, the equivalence of, let's see, maybe this is like about, let's say, 2 large onions, so 2, 4, about 8 onions. I like a lot of onions in this recipe. You could put as much or as little onions as you'd like. I think the onions give it its great taste because they add sweetness, because we are going to be cooking them with the beef for an extended period of time, and that just adds in a lot of flavor. The slow cooking of the onion brings in their sweetness, and that also lends itself to the dish, and it just altogether is really, it's a really good flavor. Now this is not a hard dish to make, but the only difficult thing about it will be preparing the yogurt. It's not really difficult, it's more of an annoying task, I should say. But it's worth it. So I'm going to chop these onions, not dice them, but more like largely chop them into large chunks, about 1 inch to 2 inch cubes, sort of. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the tips off, peel them. This onion smells good. Guessing these are sweet onions. So I'm going to chop this in half, and this looks big, so what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to chop it in half this way. Oh, spicy. And then in thirds, and then in thirds again. Oops. This one I'm just going to chop into fourths, and in thirds this way. And I need a plate to put these in. Whoops. And I'm going to do this to the rest of the onions, and then I'll get back to you. But first, let me just show you how big the onions are. Kind of this size. And they will break up. They're not going to stay stuck together like this. So I'm going to chop all these onions, and then I'll get back to you. So I chopped all these onions. I know this looks like a lot, but they are going to cook down, especially the sweet yellow onions. Those just kind of disintegrate in the dish, and you can barely tell that they are there. So we're going to take these to the stove, and we're going to start cooking this dish. Got my beef right here, and we're going to brown this first, and I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil. You could also use vegetable oil, but this time I'm choosing to use olive oil in here. Add a little more, 2 to 3 tablespoons. Okay, I'm going to preheat my pot and this oil, and then we're going to add the beef to it. And I've set the heat on medium heat. You could pre-season the beef if you want, or just season it as soon as you put it in the pot, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add in the beef in here, and with the hot oil. And we're going to season it. Actually, I'm going to turn the heat on high because I want it to get slightly seared. And for the seasoning, we need some salt and 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, 1 teaspoon of allspice, Oh no, I'm running low on this. I gotta buy some more. A tablespoon of cinnamon. And we do need half a teaspoon of garam masala, but I don't have that. We're gonna stir this up. Now that the beef is brown, I'm going to add in my onions. I know it looks like a lot, but believe me, it's going to wilt and reduce to almost nothing. You don't have to put that many onions. You could put less if you don't like that many. This is my daughter's favorite dish. She got so excited that she knew once she knew that I was making this dish. And now the seasoning also is going to get mixed in with the onions, and that's what you want. And you don't want to leave the heat on high or medium high. Now you want to reduce the heat and kind of let it simmer. So we're going to put it on low. And what's going to happen is that the beef is going to render its juices, and the onions are going to render their juices as well. And they're going to cook in those juices and produce the most amazing thing ever. So we're going to let this sit here and simmer for about 20 minutes or as long as it takes for the meat to get tender, for the beef to get tender. You could also use lamb. Probably that would taste awesome with yogurt, but my husband doesn't like lamb, so I'm using beef. I do want to say though, every now and then at the beginning, especially if you're using an electric stovetop, you want to come around and stir it a little bit just to make sure that it's not sticking to the bottom. So just every few minutes come and do that. Or you could put it on a smaller eye and just save yourself the headache of not having anything sticking to the pot. And I think that's probably what I'm going to do, because this eye gets really hot and this is going to start sticking. So I'm going to transfer it to the other. I'll do it over here actually. I'm going to put it right here. Uh-oh, I missed an onion. And I'm going to give it one more stir. Make sure the seasoning is all mixed in everywhere. Pretty soon it's going to start smelling so good. It already smells good, but it's going to smell even better. Okay, so it has cooked for 1 hour and 20 minutes and it has rendered a whole lot of juices. And now we are going to take this out of this pot and use the same pot to make the yogurt mix in. Let me bring it closer so that you guys can see what's going on in here. I don't know if you guys can see. Do you see all the liquid that's in here? That all came out just from the onions and the beef. So I'm gonna test here. Oh yeah, it is super tender. Super tender. Yeah, look at that. It just falls apart. Ow. And that's what I want. And you see how much the onions were filling the pot to the top, and now there's like, it's almost a quarter. They're filling almost only a quarter of the pot. So that's how you want it. And I'm going to transfer these into a bowl, and we're going to use the same pot to cook the yogurt in. So my glass bowl is occupied at the moment holding my watermelon. So I'm going to use this pot right here, and hopefully it won't melt. Is this hot? No, it's okay. Is this hot? No, I think it's fine. Okay, and I'm going to gently pour it in here without making a mess. That's awesome. But don't worry about the bottom. We're going to use all that good stuff for the yogurt. So now I'm going to set this bowl aside. Now for the yogurt, we are going to need 1 container of 32-ounce plain yogurt, and I'm using here non-fat. You could use full fat if you want. And 1 cup also. Usually I make my own lactose-free yogurt. This is not lactose-free and I'm going to regret it, but I want to make this dish and I want to show you guys how to do it. So we're just going to do it. I don't have lactose-free yogurt right now, so I'm just going to use this. One day I'll be showing you guys how to make your own lactose-free yogurt. It's not dairy-free, but it is lactose-free. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dump this whole thing, not with the container, without the container obviously. Don't do that. Okay, doesn't want to come out. Whoa! Alright. And 1 cup. So I have another one right here. Okay. We are going to add 3 cups of water to this. And this is just almost room temperature water or cold water, whichever. Before I wrote this recipe, I would just kind of eyeball everything and dump it in, but since I had to write it for you guys, I had to measure everything just to make sure that you're always making it the same way and it's always going to come out the same. Alright, I'm going to put some salt in here. And I don't tell you the amount of salt to put because it really is up to your taste. I might add some more later. We need 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. I like to flavor the yogurt. Some people don't flavor it. I think it's really important to flavor every part of the dish. Now I would have needed some garam masala. I don't have that right now. So I'm just going to add you could also use the Lebanese 7 spices. So I'm going to add whatever I have here from allspice. You're going to need a 1/4 teaspoon of allspice along with garam masala or 7 spices. So I'm just going to add whatever I have here, and from the allspice I don't have much. And now we are going to make a cornstarch mix, which is really important. If you don't put this in here, it is going to ruin the yogurt dish, the yogurt stew with the Laban Emmo. And what you also need, where did I put it? Where did I put it? Right here. There's a really long wooden spoon because you don't want to get burnt. Let's mix these in a little bit. Also, you want to make sure if you want to drink, if you want to go to use the bathroom, if you want to do anything, do it before you start doing this, and I want a smooth texture for the yogurt, so that's why I'm going to whisk it before I continue to cook it. Okay, now we're going to make our cornstarch mixture. For the cornstarch, we are going to need a 1/4 cup of cold water. You don't want to use hot water because as soon as the cornstarch touches the hot water, it will start to thicken, and what you're going to end up with is a clump of cornstarch with a whole lot of clumps, and it's not really going to mix in well, and you can't really add it to the yogurt. So we need 5 tablespoons of cornstarch, and I'm not sure if 5 tablespoons are equal to a 1/3 cup. I think they are, but because I'm not exactly sure, I need to measure that actually and see. And I'm going to just add them in here. You know what? Let's just measure 5 tablespoons and put them in a 1/3 cup and see if they actually equal a 1/3 cup, or I could just Google it. I'll just measure it, whatever. So 5 tablespoons of cornstarch are a little bit more than a 1/3 of a cup. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add them in with a 1/4 cup of water as I make a whole lot of mess, and I'll just clean that up in a minute. And we're just going to mix it. It's going to be hard as soon as you start mixing it. That's just how cornstarch is when it's all clumped up together. And then it's going to start loosening up. Now we're going to add this to the yogurt. And we are going to mix it in. Now if you like it thinner, you could add a little more water if you like the yogurt thinner. And I might end up doing that just because this yogurt behaves differently than the yogurt that I make. But it depends. Once it heats up also, it's going to thin out and change the texture on you. So wait before you add any water, cook it. Oh, also I totally forgot, we have the liquid from this meat that we are going to be adding in here, and that's also going to thin it out. And you don't want to add cold water to it. You know, when you cook it, just add hot water. Don't add cold water because it might separate it. This is really sensitive. So I'm going to bring you guys closer so that you can see what we're doing, and we're going to put it on high and start stirring. I got my cup of water here in case if I got thirsty and I need to drink. And I'm not leaving this pot until this yogurt boils. I'm going to turn it on high, and I'm going to start stirring. In this steady motion, center and around the pot until the yogurt starts boiling. You don't want to leave it. You don't want to go check on anything. Make sure to check on anything you want to check on, or do whatever you need to do before you start this process. And if you have a baby, that might be really hard to do. So you're going to require some help, or do this when your spouse is around, or you have some help with you. Because now the stoves are a lot better than they used to be in the old days. It's not going to take as long for the yogurt to reach the boiling point. I remember when I was at my parents' house and my mom would make this dish, she'd make me stir the yogurt for her every single time, and my arm would be burning because we had a gas stove, and the flame would be just like, she'd put it on the biggest flame and it would be everywhere, and I had a short spoon and this giant pot, felt like a short spoon, and because we were a big family, well, I have 3 brothers and a sister, so 5 kids and just a whole lot of food. And I would sit there and stir and wait for it, and it felt like it took forever for the yogurt to just reach the boiling point, and I hated that. And now it's not that bad. It's not that bad. But my oven is on because I'm working on other videos, and it's releasing some of the heat onto my other arm. And I don't appreciate that. It's a hot day. Okay. So I'll bring you guys back once this starts boiling. So it's close to the boiling point. The way how you know is when you'll start seeing a whole lot of steam, and you want to look for like these rolling waves inside the yogurt. Now I'm not going to stop stirring because I know that it is not done yet. It's not at that stage yet, but it's almost there, and about 20 minutes have passed so far. I've been trying to time it. I started a little later, but I think it has been almost 20 minutes. And I think it might take maybe about 5 more minutes for it to reach the boiling point. Now, the reason, I don't know if I mentioned, the reason why you want to keep stirring and not stop and stir in the same direction is because if you stir in haphazard directions, or if you stop stirring, the yogurt will curdle, and that would ruin your stew, your dish. Because what you want is a creamy and delicious stew, and you don't want to be eating yogurt curdles. So to prevent that from happening, this is what you have to do. Just stir in the same direction until it starts boiling. And my timer is going off here. I'm going to put it for 5 more minutes and see if that's how long it's going to take. And I forgot what I was going to say. Now, if you suspect that it's about to boil, you could, or it is boiling, you could just stir a little slower just to see, or stop for a second and look at it. It's not there yet, so I'm going to keep stirring. And also the cornstarch helps not just in thickening the yogurt, but in binding the yogurt and stopping it from curdling. If you don't put this cornstarch in there, what's going to happen is the yogurt will curdle. The curdles would be a lot smaller, but it will still curdle. So you want to make sure to add in the cornstarch. You don't want to skip that. Now, if you are allergic to corn, and I don't know anyone that is, but if you are, and if you want to avoid using corn, you might be able to get away with using maybe rice flour. I've never tried that before, but you can, and let me know how it works. Or maybe oat flour, I don't know. I'm getting tired. Yay, it's finally boiling. It took 30 minutes to boil, and I had to raise the heat on both eyes when I'm like burning right now. And it finally started boiling. And I'm going to turn off the bigger head and leave it on the smaller head. And actually I'm going to turn it down now to medium heat. And I'm going to add the beef. Now you want to add this very slowly and carefully because you don't want to splash. If you want, you could use a ladle. That would be the smart thing to do. Onions and the juices, all that goodness, and I'm going to stir again, raise the heat again until it gets back to a boil, and then we're going to reduce the heat to medium-low and let it simmer for 10 to 20 minutes. I like to let it simmer for a little longer, more on the 20-minute side, so that the beef would absorb all the flavor from the yogurt and it becomes part of the dish. And you want to serve this dish with some Mediterranean rice. I personally like to eat it as a soup. That's my preferred method of eating it, and then I put in a small bowl of Mediterranean rice on the side and I eat it with it. Sometimes I just eat it as a soup like this. Now I heated some water just in case if I feel like adding a little bit of water to this, but I think that the texture, the thickness is good. I don't know, I might end up adding some water, we'll see. And when you do put it in the fridge, it kind of thickens up a little bit, and when you heat it up, it thins out again. But if you feel like it's thick after you store it in the fridge and you do heat it up, you can add a little bit of water and some salt to it, and it will still be as delicious as it was in the beginning. This is also one of my favorite dishes. Not as much as grape leaves though. My favorite dish is grape leaves. I love grape leaves. I love it, love it, love it. And I'm recording a video also right now for the grape leaves recipe. Okay, it's boiling again. I'm going to reduce the heat to medium-low. And you don't want to cover it while it's hot, because if you do cover it, it's going to curdle. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer it to a different stove head, so that it doesn't stick to the bottom and overboil. I'm going to put it right here and let it continue to cook for 20 minutes. There we go. And then once it's done, I'll get back to you guys and show you how it all looks together. So the yogurt stew, or Laban Emmo, is done getting cooked, and let me show you guys how it looks like. Well, you could see it in the picture. And that's the beef. It's covered with all that yummy liquid yogurt. Now, this is super hot. Like I said, you serve it traditionally with Mediterranean rice, but I like to eat it this way. I don't like to have my rice mixed in with my food, and I like this as a soup more than a regular Mediterranean stew. So I'm going to try it. yet. It might need some salt. And I didn't end up adding any water. And for some weird reason, the meat and some of the onions, some of the meat and some of the onions stuck to the bottom of the pot, maybe because I had it on high when I was adding the meat in the no, but I did stir it. I don't know, something happened, and this is the first time that ever happens to me, of course, because I'm filming, right? And something has to happen. So I'm gonna try this without burning my fingers. Oh, it's too hot. Put it on a plate. I just took it off the stove, so super hot. Let me see if I can show you guys how tender the meat is. Look at this. It just falls apart. And I like small cuts. I'm sorry, you guys can't see anything. I like small cuts of meat for this dish. I don't like them to be big. Look at this. It just falls apart. It also all depends on how you cut the meat. So, whoa, even if it's a cheap cut of meat, if you cut it properly against the grain, you're going to achieve a tender meat if you cut it properly. So you want to look for the muscles and the way they are heading. You cut, what I do is first I cut a big slice, and then I slice it in the same direction of the muscle, and then I slice the small cuts of beef, the cubes, up against the direction of where the muscle is heading. And you can see that, and it kind of changes around the cut of meat that you have, and you have to follow the direction of the muscles and keep doing that, and that's how you end up with tender meat. Let me try it now. I like more salt usually in my dish. Everyone else eats it with the same amount of, not cooked yet. I'm making grape leaves also for another video, and my son loves them. He got super excited. So I'm gonna try this now. I like more salt in mine. Everyone else eats it this way. That's why I don't put a lot of salt in it, but I always add salt in mine. It's sweet, it's slightly tangy, it's just, and all the flavor from the spices is just so delicious. And with Mediterranean rice on the side or with it, like you put it on top of the Mediterranean rice. That's normally how they serve it. It just tastes really good. So good. If you like yogurt, like I said, you could use a lactose-free yogurt. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned something new from it, and I hope you will try this dish and let me know what you guys think of it in the comments down below. And if you are new to this channel and would like to see more of these videos, hit the subscribe button and the bell to receive notifications of whenever I upload new videos. And if you like this video, hit the like button so that more people can see these kinds of videos, so that they can learn how to cook delicious gluten-free food and delicious Mediterranean food. I know there's a great like rave, or I don't know what kind of word to use. Everyone wants to eat Mediterranean food these days. They believe it's a healthier diet. I don't know. It depends how you eat it. Depends what you put in it, because I know a lot of the food in the Mediterranean diet isn't necessarily healthy, so it depends on the food choices you make. It all depends on the food choices you make. So that's one healthy dish if you eat it properly and you don't add a lot of oil, and you know. Anyways, I'm going on a rant here. So share this video with your friends and family, and so that they also can learn how to cook gluten-free and Mediterranean food. And thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next episode.